Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1453B, and today's date is December 20th, 2017, and the title of the episode is, Looks Like It's a Go, Be Prepared, Something Big is About to Happen. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we know that net neutrality is a hot topic, and net neutrality proponents, they've claimed that the regulations combat censorship. Yet, YouTube happily censored a video of the FCC chairman, Ajit Pai, and he was defending the net neutrality repeal, and YouTube decided to take it down. And we need to remember, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media forms of communication, they were completely exempt from net neutrality. Well, of course, a lot of them wrote the rules for net neutrality. I mean, net neutrality was created by Obama, funded by George Soros, but under a lot of pressure, YouTube, after 7 hours, decided that they will bring the video back up, and they restored it. Now, what's very interesting, we've seen Google, YouTube, Facebook, they've been trying all different methods by changing the terms of service, continually trying to add fact checkers, going with fake news, trying to shut down the alternative media or anyone that does not go along with their idea of what you should be saying. I mean, right now we see Twitter, the Vice President of Public Policy and Communications for Europe, we see that she was testifying in front of the UK, and they were talking about free speech, and McSweeney, when she appeared before British politicians this week, and she was alongside representatives from Google, Facebook, and others, saying that they really can't control the free speech on their platforms. Now, I know all these platforms are private. I know that they don't abide by the Constitution because they're private companies. And what they're really saying is they can't control the narrative of the story, because when you think of free speech, it's not, oh, this is the okay speech and this isn't the okay speech. All speech is free. It doesn't matter what you're saying. If this person is saying this and this person is saying this person over here might not agree with that person and the other way around, but that doesn't mean that that speech is not free, where they can say what they want, because everyone has their own opinions. When the Founding Fathers said we have the freedom of speech, we were allowed to say whatever we wanted. Now, you might not agree. That's completely different. But who decides what is hate speech? Who decides what is extremist content? Because once you start to decide that this is hate speech because we said so, that's not free anymore. That's controlled speech. Because remember, the government and maybe YouTube and Google, they might think that is hate speech. And this group of people over here saying, I don't think that's hate speech. And we see right now that this is the problem. They're trying to control speech. They're trying to control it. They're not letting it be open and free. And what McSweeney is saying when she appeared in front of the British politicians is that they can no longer control free speech. Well, you're not supposed to control it. That's the whole point. Because once it's controlled, it's no longer free. And we see that they're losing the battle right now. And this is why we see countries getting ready to fine people to say, listen, if we believe this is fake news, well, guess what? We're going to fine you. If we don't think this is right, we're going to fine you. If we don't like that, we're going to block you. This is what countries do to fight against freedom. And once they do this, you've lost your freedom. We see right now the U.S. is giving China a draft proposal for tougher North Korean sanctions. And once again, sanctions don't work anymore. Other countries, they completely go around it. There's no need for them. It does not hurt the countries anymore because all they have to do is deal in different currencies. And this is what countries have done for a very long time. Look at Cuba, look at Syria, look at Iran, look at North Korea. They've been doing this and they've lasted, and they were able to outweather the sanction storm. And we see that this is not going to work. Now, we see that South Korea is asking Washington to delay the joint military exercises until after the 2018 Winter Olympics. And right now, it looks like the cabal, well, they have no plans to halt the joint drills near the Korean Peninsula ahead of the Olympics. Now, of course, they're not going to halt them because they want to provoke North Korea. Because the cabal is still pushing and trying to get us into a war. They're not going to give up that easily. And we can see their plan, their goal, is going forward. It looks like they've gotten the green light, and it looks like they're moving ahead with it. And we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. Nikki Haley was out there, and we talked about this also, where she presented this missile system that they got from Saudi Arabia, saying this was from Iran. The Houthis are dealing with Iran. Iran is supplying the terrorist groups with, weapons. They are the sponsors of terror. And we need to look a little bit closer at this. Now, the rocket that they presented had Iranian markings. It was not launched from Iran or by Iranians. The Houthi rebels, for 2 years, victims of a savage war waged by the Saudis using U.S.-made planes, missiles, bombs, and drones. Very interesting. The U.S. is supplying all this to Saudi Arabia to fight against Yemen, and Yemen never attacked Saudi Arabia. So we need to look at that. We see that the Saudi forces attacked Yemen, and then Yemen decided to defend themselves. So who's the sponsor of terrorism or the sponsor of war? Well, so far it's the United States, because they've been supporting Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is also responsible. So there's no evidence as to when the Houthis acquired the missile or where. The question arises, what was Haley's motive in going after Iran? Was this part of a new propaganda campaign to drum up support for America's next big Mideast war? Of course it is. And Haley continued on to say it's hard to find a conflict or terrorist group in the Middle East that does not have Iran's fingerprints all over it. Really? I can point some out that don't have their fingerprints all over it. Let's think about this for a second. Iran is Shiite. Al-Qaeda is Sunni. Why would they be supporting Al-Qaeda? They don't. The Islamic State is Sunni. Well, guess what? Iran's not going to support them. We see Boko Haram is Sunni. Al-Shabaab, Sunni. See a pattern here? All these terrorist groups are the opposite of Iran. Who supports Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and the rest? Ah, that's right. The United States, Israel, the coalition forces. So when she says that it's hard to find a conflict or a terrorist group in the Middle East that does not have Iran's fingerprints all over it, completely wrong. Actually, it's hard to find a terrorist group that doesn't have the United States, Israel, and the coalition forces' fingerprints all over it. That's where she messed up. And also, she didn't prove that this missile system came from Iran. The whole thing was propaganda. The whole thing was trying to get everyone together to go after Iran and start a war. And we see right now, it is failing. It is not working. So what are they doing? They're moving to their next phase. And we see right now, they tried in Syria to push something in there. Nothing is working. Actually, Assad was out there telling Macron, listen, France was spearheading support for terrorism in Syria, so they don't have the right to talk about peace or anything else. Same thing with the United States, because they're behind all of this. And he's right. But what we're seeing right now is that the cabal is becoming so desperate, and it looks like they got the green light to go ahead. They're making the claim right now that the Islamic State has hacked the U.S. Army and State Department, and they'll be sending assassins to the employees' homes. So right now, they're saying that the Islamic State has hacked the U.S. Army and State Department, and they're going to be sending assassins to these individual homes. And they're trying to convince everyone that the Islamic State is coming. The other thing they're doing is they're building up the propaganda against North Korea. Now, remember they talked about the WannaCry malware virus, where they said that North Korea is completely behind this. And of course, once it came out, and they have really no proof whatsoever, because you can't track this stuff down. It's so difficult, and a state actor is not going to leave fingerprints. But they're making the case right now that, yes, it's absolutely North Korea. And when you look at the evidence, it could have been anyone. Actually, when you look at the report, they name many, many different groups. North Korea is just one of them. So there's no real proof. But if you notice, the corporate media, all of them picked it up, and the headlines all say that North Korea is responsible for the WannaCry. And they're out there pushing this idea that they're going to be attacking and using this technology to wage cyber war on other countries. Plus, they're saying they're using Bitcoin to fund their cyber operations. Now the U.S. intelligence believes that North Korea is between 12 and 18 months away from getting the ability to load a nuclear warhead onto one of its ICBMs. And South Korean intelligence is out there saying that Kim Jong-un, well, guess what? He's testing biological weapons, and they might have the ability to load anthrax onto their ICBMs. Now, once again, this is all propaganda. Why are they going to fire a missile with anthrax or a biological weapon into a country? Because if they do this, they will have thousands of nuclear warheads headed their way, and the country would completely disappear. It makes no sense. The strategy of what they're talking about makes no sense. And actually, if you really think about this, doesn't this seem really familiar to the weapons of mass destruction of Iraq? They're using the same exact tactic. They're even using anthrax. They can't even come up with something new. And they're pushing this story. They're trying to convince everyone that this is actually what's happening, because what they want to do is they want to push this war going forward. And it looks like they got the green light, because they're coming out with all this propaganda to convince us that we need to go to war. Now, what's very interesting, we know the Winter Olympics are coming up. They might try something during this time period. This would be a good time to do this, where they could have some type of an event, because everyone would be watching. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually try to do something during this period of time. And this is why they're building up the propaganda. This is why they have the green light. It's a go to get this started. So what we're seeing right now is that the cabal is getting ready to use the doomsday event, where we're going to see cyber attacks, physical attacks, maybe some type of an event in the North, South Korea, the Korean Peninsula area. And we could see that they are most likely getting ready to do something very, very soon, because we could see right now they are pushing this propaganda very hard. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.